I graduated college with an accounting degree, a master's degree, in fact. I also graduated college with thousands and thousands of credit card debt on top of my student loan balances. I thought I was doing everything right. I was paying for my off campus apartment, racking up multiple credit cards to pay for my living expenses, thinking, oh, it'll all just take care of itself. Once I graduate, I get a good job, and then I can just pay it off. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was paying my minimum balances, but the balances weren't going down. I had no idea what a mess I was getting myself into because I was not taught how personal finance works. It's not taught in our school system. We are not taught how to actually use money in a way that's going to create wealth in our life. We don't learn about the things that we need to know that actually make us wealthy. And I think that's for a reason. This is why so many people get trapped in the financial system, clawing their way out, trying to get themselves out of debt, have no idea how to actually use money to build wealth, and they're simply trapped in the system. I had an accounting degree, had to teach this stuff to myself after school. What is the average person? What do they know about this? The person that's getting the art degree, the marketing degree, that isn't even in finance or business to begin with, how do they know this stuff? This is what I'm going to change today. I'm going to take you through the 4 things about personal finance that no one ever taught you, that you need to know today. And once you know these things, you start implementing them in your life, you're going to be able to start building wealth for yourself, for your future, and change your financial reality starting today. So hi, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Sue Ellen. If you're new here, I'm a CPA. I'm a money and manifestation coach. And on this channel, we talk all things money. I teach you the strategy, more of what we're going to go through today, but we also talk about the mindset, the belief systems around money, and your nervous system, because all 3 pillars are necessary in order to build wealth that actually lasts, that you can hold on to and actually feels good while doing it. All right, so let's get into it. So the first thing I want to teach you today, we're going to go back to my old college self. I'm going to teach you how debt and interest actually works. So many people don't understand that if they don't have a no interest credit card, that the interest that they are incurring on their credit card, it actually compounds. This is why you get into this snowball effect where you just cannot seem to get this damn card paid off. So what that means is, if you have a credit card balance and you're incurring interest on it, you incur interest on it for that month, the following month, you don't just incur interest on the original balance that you charged to the card. You also incur interest on top of the interest that they charged to you in the prior month. So this means that you're incurring interest on top of the interest that you've already accrued. So if you don't pay down the principal, that interest is going to keep growing and growing and growing. The whole thing is basically feeding itself, AKA feeding the bank. Let's look at this in numbers. Let's say that you have a $5,000 balance on a credit card and you have a 22% interest rate, which is honestly on the lower end of what some credit cards charge right now. Isn't that crazy? Yes, you can get some lower interest rates if you have some good credit score, but honestly, a lot of the credit cards are even higher than this. It's pretty insane. If you only make the minimum payment on that credit card, it is going to take you 17 years to pay off that balance because of the interest that continues to accrue. And in that time, you are going to end up paying $13,000 for that credit card balance. What was a $5,000 charge now turns into $13,000. It's almost 3 times the amount that you originally charged on that card. You're basically paying back tons of interest to the bank. This is why they love to hand out credit cards. And this is the trap that I fell in when I was in college. I didn't realize what was happening. And I had multiple credit cards that were accruing interest on top of interest. I was paying the minimum balance and thinking, why is this balance not going down? It is a vicious cycle that you get trapped in. So there's 2 strategies for credit card debt. If you have a credit card balance, the best thing to do is to pay off the full balance every single month so you don't incur interest at all. If you find yourself already in a bunch of credit card debt, you have multiple credit cards, and you're in that same position that I was when I left college, here's what you want to do. You want to do what's called the avalanche method. You want to look at all of your credit cards. I would put this in like a spreadsheet, list out all of your credit cards, the current balance that you have, all of the interest rates on them, and put down your minimum payment. Pick the credit card that has the highest interest rate, and we're going to attack that one first. So all of your other credit cards, you're just going to pay the minimum balance every month. The one that has the highest interest rate, you want to pay as much as you possibly can to that balance until it is paid off. Once that credit card is paid off, find the next credit card that has the next highest interest rate, and you start attacking that one. This is going to help you pay off this debt with the highest interest rate faster. Therefore, you're lessening the amount of interest that's compounding, what I talked about earlier, and this is going to help you pay your debt off faster. This is the method that I took. It does take some time, but when you attack it this way, it turns into an avalanche. And so once you pay off that first credit card, you take that money that you were able to pay off on that credit card, start applying it to the next one that has the next highest interest rate. The other key is stop making charges on these credit cards. When I found myself in tons of credit card debt after college, I literally cut up all my credit cards. I said, I'm not using them. If I can't pay for it in cash, I'm not buying it at all. Yes, it required me to sacrifice some things for some time period, but it helped me get out of debt so much faster. You cannot build wealth when you are in mountains and mountains of credit card debt. The second thing about personal finance that no one really ever taught us is what your credit score actually is. Like, what is it? It's not a value. It's not a measure of how wealthy you are. It's not a measure of how much money you make. It's not even a measure of how good you are with your money, honestly. All your credit score is basically a number that is predicting to the credit card companies how likely you are to pay down your credit card balance based off of your past behavior. That's all it is. And the thing is, what's tricky about credit scores are, if you never take out a credit card and you never use credit, you actually will have a low credit score because there is no past behavior, there is no past credit history for them to measure you against and to tell the lenders that you are financially responsible and based on your past behavior will pay off this loan or pay off this debt. People get into this trap sometimes is they decide that they aren't going to take out a credit card at all. If you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, his teachings have always been credit is bad, don't have credit, like no credit cards. If you can't pay it in cash, don't have it at all. And I completely disagree with that because if you don't have credit and you go to try to buy a home and get a mortgage or even an auto loan, you will likely need a cosigner, or you're going to get a higher interest rate, or you're going to have to put down a bigger down payment because you have no credit history for those lenders to look at and decide whether you are a responsible person with the credit that you've had in the past. So this dings you with a car loan, with a personal mortgage or home loan. If you want to take out a loan for your business, like credit matters. It's important. So credit is not bad. It's just we need to be responsible and know how to actually utilize it. The credit bureaus, they look at a bunch of different factors, but there's 5 main ones that they really look at. The first one is your payment history. This is probably the most important. They're looking at your historical payments and saying, do you pay your balances? Do you pay your loans on time? The second is your credit utilization. So they can tell how much open credit that you have. So that means what are the open credit balances on your credit cards? What are your loan balances? Do you have mortgages or car loans? What is your available credit and how much of that are you actually utilizing? So say you have credit cards that give you the opportunity to spend $10,000 and you've charged $5,000 of that $10,000. That means that you've utilized 50% of your available credit. Generally, you want to keep this below 30%. The other 3 are less important than the first 2, and that's your length of your credit history. So if you're a younger person and you just got your first credit card, you're 21 years old and you just got your first credit card, your credit history is not very long. I'm a 40-year-old individual. I got my first credit card I don't know, when I was 19 years old. So I have over 20 years of credit history. So that's a piece of it. They look at the type of credit that you have. So is it credit cards? Do you have mortgages? Do you have other loan balances? Do you have auto loans? What have you? So they look at the type of credit that you have outstanding. And then they look at your recent inquiries. So how often have you been trying to get credit most recently? So if you've been out there and you've been applying for a bunch of new cards, and then eventually you start getting declined for these cards and you keep going and trying to get more credit, they may look at you and say, why are you coming back and doing all of these inquiries? If they see that you have a ton new inquiries, there's a potential that they might decline you for more credit. There's some tactics that you can use. Obviously, paying down your credit cards. If you have a big utilization rate, going back to the example, if you have $10,000 of available credit and they're all maxed out, or you have, say, $8,000 maxed out, obviously you want to pay down your credit. You don't want to be applying for a ton of new credit all within one period. So you want to space it out if at possible. And then the other tactic is you never want to close a credit card that you've had for a long time. I know it can be kind of tempting. Like I have credit cards that I've opened from 20 years ago, and it's tempting. I'm like, I don't use this card anymore. The perks and the benefits aren't that great, but I'm never going to close that card because going back to, I forget what point it was, but one of those last 3 points, they look at your length of credit history. So if I close that old card, that's going to move up my credit history and it may look like I only have new cards. So even if you have an old card that you're not using, you want to keep it open because it is a good indicator that you've had credit for a long time. You also want to check your credit report periodically. There's free sites that you can pull your credit report on. You can go to annualcreditreport.com and you can look at your free credit report. Everyone gets one once per year to just scan because you want to make sure that the accounts that are on your credit report are actually things that you opened. Unfortunately, there's fraud that happens these days and people can get a hold of your information, open up credit cards under your name. So you want to just scan and make sure that the information that's in your credit report is actually accurate. The third thing about personal finance that they don't teach us is how savings work and which order that you should actually be saving. What I mean by this is how are we prioritizing our savings goals? You've probably heard about an emergency fund. I prefer to call it an opportunity fund, but it's money that you set aside for basically a rainy day. We want to have 3 to 6 months of our living expenses saved in this fund. So in case something happens, you have an emergency medical bill, the car breaks down, there's a repair that you need for the house, someone unfortunately loses their job. It depends on your personal situation, whether you have children or you're married, you have spousal support, you decide how much you want to keep in this opportunity fund. I generally say to start between 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. So the way that we prioritize is we want to fund that opportunity fund immediately. Like that would be the goal. That's the first place that we want to start. However, if you have a ton of high interest debt outstanding, we want to tackle that first as well. The thing is, when we have this high interest debt, it's this snowball effect and it makes it very hard to build wealth, to build savings accounts up if we have this snowball of debt that just is a mountain that keeps building. So we want to go back to point, was it 1, where I talked about debt, and we want to be aggressively paying down our debt while also building our savings account. I would prioritize putting some in savings, maybe get up to 1 month's worth of savings, but also tackling this debt at the same time. Debt needs to be the priority. If it's high interest debt, we want to get that paid down as quickly as possible. And why we want this emergency, this opportunity fund funded as quickly as possible is because if something were to come up and you have no savings put aside, say something, your car breaks down, the house, a medical bill, that creates immediate financial stress. That immediately creates financial anxiety, and that immediately puts you in a place where you might have to get into debt over some sort of unforeseen circumstance that happens in your life. So the order of operations here is we want to pay down that high interest debt as soon as possible. I would also put some in savings for your emergencies, maybe $1,000, $2,000, whatever you can get into that savings account, just so you have a little bit of a cushion. But the priority really needs to be paying down that high interest debt. Once you have the debt paid off, then you can start funding your emergency savings to 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. The reason why we want to do this is if you think about interest rates, say you have a 22% interest credit card that's incurring interest every month, and your savings account, say you have it in a high yield savings account, the rates are only around 3.5%, maybe 4% right now, but let's just say they're 5% that you're earning as interest on that savings account. You're losing 17% every single time you are putting money in that savings account versus using that money to pay off that debt. That's the other thing. Once you get that debt paid off and you are putting your money in for the emergency opportunity fund, you want it in a high yield savings account. You don't want it just sitting in a regular savings account. High yield savings accounts have higher interest rates, so you're earning more interest while it's sitting in that account. The one that I personally use is the Capital One 360 performance account. It's great. Highly recommend it. I've been using it for years. Then once you have your 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved in a high yield savings account, then you can start investing aggressively. I've also talked about this before, but I believe that you should have a fun fund, which I prioritize in my life. Is fun is money that I contribute to a savings account that is just for fun in my life. So for me, recently it was going to the Bad Bunny concert or for traveling. It can be whatever you believe is going to add value to your life, what's important to you. We want to have fun and enjoy our life. It's how we live a fulfilled life. We need to be out there enjoying the things that bring us joy. So this really leads me into number 4, the thing about personal finance that no one has taught us, and that's how investing works and why it is costing you if you are waiting to start investing. So many people are confused when it comes to investing. And I get it. It feels scary. Like the stock market, stocks, dividends, like what does all of this mean? I get it. It can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And what happens is because people don't understand it, it's complicated, it looks scary, they just put it off and they wait. The problem is the longer that you wait, you are costing yourself money. The earlier you can start investing, the better. And that's because of compound interest. It's the same exact thing that we talked about in point 1 with on the debt side of things. It works the same way on the interest earning side of things for investing. So as you start to invest your money and your money starts earning interest, all of that continues to compound. So say you invest $1,000, you earn $500 in interest over time. The interest that you continue to accrue is now going to accrue based off of the $1,500, not just the original $1,000 that you put in. And so it has this compounding effect over time. So the earlier you start, the better. This is really how you make your money work for you. This is really why investing needs to be a priority. Once you get your debt paid off, you need to allocate money from your income, from your business into investments, because it's literally free money for your future. So I put together some numbers just so you can see how this can actually benefit you, okay? If you invest $300 a month starting right now, and those investments earn 8%, which is about the average that the stock market produces, in the next 30 years, you will have $440,000 saved. Of that $440,000, you have contributed $108,000. The rest of it is interest that has compounded over time. It's like $330,000 that you have made by investing $108,000. That is what compound interest growth does for you. And the earlier you start, like what you have on your side is time, because the longer that the money is invested in the market, the longer it is compounding. So even if you just have to start with $10, just start contributing what you can today. The earlier you start, the better. So let's talk about where should you invest your money. First, if you work for an employer and they offer a 401k and they match what you contribute to the 401k, some employers do 3% up to like 6%. I've seen you want to contribute as much as they match. Always, because that is free money on the table. It's very hard to get free money in this world. So if they're matching up to 6%, put 6% into your 401k. If you are self-employed and you don't work for a company, you have options of opening up a solo 401k. Depending on your income, you can contribute to a Roth IRA. You can open up a SEP IRA, which is a self-employment IRA. So you have options that can also offer tax advantages for you when you file your income tax return. You want to talk to your tax accountant, to your financial advisor, and talk about your unique situation to decide which plan actually makes sense for you. But the key is to start investing in something today. Get something open, start today, even if it's just $10 a week. The cool thing about this is once you start investing and once you start seeing how the compounding interest works, you open your account 6 months later and you see how much the account has actually grown. It's actually like motivating for your brain. You're like, oh shit, like I want to put more money in here because I can see how my money is working for me. There's advantages, and this is how we operate like a wealthy CEO. This is how we make decisions like a wealthy CEO. We have a purpose for our money, and we make our money work for us. And these topics are going to be covered in an upcoming workshop that I have. So stay tuned. I'll tell you more about that here shortly. But first, let's just recap the 4 things about personal finance that nobody's really teaching us. Number 1 is how debt and interest actually work. Interest compounds. You want to pay off your debt as quickly as possible if it's high interest credit card debt using the avalanche method that I talked about at the beginning of this video. Number 2, what does your credit score actually mean and the key indicators that they actually look at when they're rating your credit score. Number 3, how savings works and which order should I actually save? We talked about your paying down your high interest credit card first, building that emergency, that opportunity fund for yourself. Then you want to prioritize investing and you want to prioritize your fund because that's also important in our life. And then number 4, we went into investing in more detail, told you about how the interest works on the good side, how it also compounds, and how time is your best friend when you're investing money. Those are the 4 things about personal finance that we aren't taught. And if this interests you, if you thought that you saw yourself in some of these things, like, wow, I really want to get this in order. I see like I have some opportunity with my money here. I want to invite you to my free money workshop that is coming up at the end of the month. I'm going to cover the 5 gaps that I see holding people back from building and creating their wealthiest timeline and how to start shifting them today. Details on that are in the description box below. You can sign up and get on the wait list. It's completely free. There'll be a replay sent out if you aren't able to attend live. As part of that workshop, I'm also leading everyone through a free live breathwork journey that's going to help you release some of the anxiousness, the fears, the stress, the overwhelm that come up when we're talking about these topics, which can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, but help you embody your wealthiest timeline, help you start creating that financial reality that you desire for yourself today. If you haven't experienced Breathwork Live, I highly recommend you come. The energy is unmatched, and I guarantee you're going to leave this workshop with some actionable tools that you can use in your business and in your life. And you're going to be feeling a lot lighter, a lot more motivated to create the financial reality that you so deserve to experience. So I'd love to know which of these 4 things really resonated with you. Drop in the comments below which one that you are working on in your own life for yourself. I look forward to seeing you in the free workshop coming up here soon. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. I hope you have an amazing week ahead, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one. Talk to you later. Bye.